Well, welcome. We'll be starting shortly, just waiting for everyone to join the session. As always on Zoom, there's a bit of time it takes for everyone just to get through into the call. So we'll get started just in a second, but there's a very interesting panelists for you today. We're going to be looking at voices from the farm, looking at priorities, challenges and aspirations for farmer transformation. I'm looking forward to this session. So if you're just joining us, as I said, we're going to start shortly, just waiting for everyone to join the call. There's always a bit of a delay when you start a Zoom webinar. We'll be starting very shortly. All right, well, I think we will, in the interest of time, get cracking. Welcome to you all, and welcome to this Innovation Forum webinar, the latest in our Voices from the Farm series. I'm Ian Welsh, and I'll be hosting for the next hour or so. So, undoubtedly, farmers are at the core of sustainable commodities production. However, all too often, they are not given a seat at the table. Ahead of our Sustainable Landscapes and Commodities conference coming up in Amsterdam on the 1st and 2nd of November, today an online panel of farmers from across the globe will discuss some of the challenges that they have faced, their priorities, and some practical examples of initiatives that have benefited them and their communities. Okay, well, I'm delighted that just joining us, we have Kule Francis Baita, who's a coffee and fruit farmer and the board secretary of the Bukonzo Organic Cooperative Union in Uganda. Welcome to you, sir. We also have Ashirafu Kiongozi, a sunflower and soybean farmer and project training lead for the Clinton Development Initiative in Tanzania. And we have George Banchiotto, a crop farmer and on the board of the Sociedad Rural de Pergamino, apologies, in Argentina. Welcome to you, George. Okay, we have some, we're going to run through a few opening remarks with our panel, but do be thinking of your questions. We're using the Q&A function on Zoom, so put your questions in there and I'll put them through our panel as we go. Please do add your name and organization though when you do so. And many thanks to the Clinton Foundation, RSPO, Fair Trade, and the National Farmers Union for helping bring today's participants together with us all today. We had also hoped to be joined by Stephen Lansana, a palm oil farmer in Sierra Leone, but very sadly he was involved in a road accident earlier today and has had to go and seek some medical assistance. So our very best wishes go to him for a speedy recovery. Okay. Welcome, panel. Let me start with you, George, then. Why don't you give us a little bit of introduction as to where you are and how you farm, and some of the challenges that you're facing right now. George.
Well, good morning to everyone. We farm in Argentina. We have a farming operation of about 3,000 hectares, part of it owned and some on rented land. And we mainly do agriculture. We've been in no-till since 1994, and we have between 11 and 13 crops. We're trying to keep the soil green all year round. We have enough millimeters to do that. Not nowadays because it's been very dry, and that's one of the challenges we've been having these last 2 years. It's been very dry here. We've had 750 millimeters instead of 1,100, that is the average here. And other big challenge for us is the instability of the economy, Argentinian economy. And that's, things change very fast and you can never get a sleep here because things happen very fast and you can get out of the game if you don't react properly and quickly.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much indeed. Let me turn to you, Kule Francis. Welcome. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of introduction to your farm and some of the challenges that you're facing right now.
Thank you so much. Nice being here, nice being part of this discussion. Kule Francis Baita, a coffee farmer from Uganda. and I'm representing a coffee cooperative union called the Bukonzo Organic Farmers Cooperative Union. It's a union of 13 primary societies, and all in all are doing coffee. Basically, we do wet processed coffee, and at the moment, we have around 3,000 smallholder farmers on the slopes of Mount Rwenzori in Western Uganda. Well, a few things is that our coffee is organically certified and fair trade certified. The union has been existing since 2019. And we are, as a union, we are growing. Some of the key challenges that we are facing as farmers, especially referring to myself, a smallholder, I only have coffee to the tune of 1.5 acres. The rest of my farmers have 2 acres, 1 acre, half acre. So we are really smallholder farmers. Well, some of the challenges we are facing is that when it comes to current issues of drought, it's becoming a very big challenge to our farms. You find that the flowers on the coffee are dropping. That means the productivity will go down. In most cases, we are getting this drought 2 times in a year because Uganda has 2 cropping seasons. So the good seasons also are followed by the bad seasons. So the challenge is a very big challenge to the farmers. The other big challenge we're also facing is the issue to do with the pricing. Well, we as a smallholder farmers selling through a cooperative, and then the structure takes us to a cooperative union. It creates kind of a long chain. We are organized into micro washing stations. Then we do our coffee up to a primary society. Then the coffee leaves the primary society, it goes to the cooperative union. So the chain is long. And what happens is that we never know what is the price on the world market. So issues are that for us as smallholder farmers, when we come to the General Assembly, it's when we hear about the price changes. And we understand that technology is on now, you can access, but biggest percentage of our farmers don't even have smartphones. So it's a very big challenge. So issues of prices, we can only be told by our union or primary societies when the price has already changed. So there's that time lag when price is announced. We are also facing a big challenge on the multinationals now. They are investing highly into the coffee industry. So when you hear about the multinationals, we get challenged because they come with big funds and they push our small cooperatives out of the market. So for them, they're able to access credit from different banks. To us as primary cooperatives, it's a very big dream to access banks. So these are some of the challenges that I can give at this time. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, I'm hearing from both George and Kule Francis, certainly climate change type challenges really to the fore, as well as the others that you mentioned just now, the pricing fluctuations, access to finance as well. But thank you. There's loads we can come back to. Just a reminder to our audience, thank you for joining us. Do use the Q&A function to write your questions. We will put them to I will put them to our panel as we go. We use the Q&A function to for your questions, and I will put them to our panelists. And a reminder also that we are recording the session, so we will be sending it to everyone who signed up for the webinar. We'll be sending recording on audio and video, so you can share that with your colleagues later on or at your leisure. Okay, Ashurafu, thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for your patience. Perhaps you can introduce yourself and give us a little bit about some of the challenges that you're facing in Tanzania.
Okay, my name is Yashafu Kiongosi. I live at Mlandege village of Iringa region in Tanzania. I have worked to Clinton Foundation with 3 years now. We are 160 of farmers in Iringa. The challenges first in this year, first of challenge, availability of market to soybeans. This season, the farmer gets prices are low compared of last year. Increase of crop production increase of crop due to the decline of due to the rise of input prices, especially fertilizer. Weather changes will be rain onset delayed almost started in mid-January, where for other normally started season started to December. Therefore, affected the growth and the general productive on crop this year. The challenges first year ahead are availability and accessibility input, specifically seeds and fertilizer, increase of input prices, example seeds, pesticide and fertilizer, unpredicted marketing for our crops. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So what I'm hearing from you that you're looking for better inputs for at the start of the process, better seeds, and also other inputs into the farm, and that your challenges is around, or one of your challenges is around seeking better input. So thank you very much indeed. So let's think a bit about priorities then. Priorities looking forward. So George, what are the priorities for the future for you, for your farm, and for your family?
Well, one of our main priorities keep the soil health, and we have a lot of long-term trials. We've been studying the soil in a no-till environment and trying to find the best way to capture more carbon and have healthier soils so that we will be more resilient with all this climate change. And most of our efforts are centered on that. And also we are trying to, we have a lot of information, and we are trying to make a startup about soil health, because we think we have a lot of information. We joined the scientists and farmers, and we will probably start a startup about soil health with solutions. Other of the challenges is how to involve the next generation in farming. Although Argentina has the youngest farmers average, because here we have like corporations, we have some bigger scale farms, so we can adopt maybe more technology, and I think technology will attract young people. And also we need to give them a sense of purpose, because if not, I receive a lot of visits from other countries in the farm, and they are all old people. Most of the people that come to visit are old people. Young people don't want to work in the farms. So we have a big challenge there. And well, I think with those two things, technology and purpose, we can get them back to the farm.
Thank you. Yes, already we've had a question about the challenges around keeping younger people involved. We can perhaps come back to that in more detail a little bit later on, but thank you. In terms of soil health, are you then investigating and moving into using regenerative agriculture techniques? Regenerative agri is seems to be a big buzzword at the moment, a big one of the big things in agriculture. Is that something that you're looking at on your farm?
Yes, we are trying to use less inputs, external inputs. We try to use less herbicides, less fertilizer, and well, we are trying to get healthier soil so that the soil will make that happen. And made us less dependent on external inputs, because as they say, inputs this year, the combination is the worst because inputs are very high prices. And well, here we have a drought. We are about to lose our winter crops. It's been very dry, and we'll probably harvest 0 wheat and 0 barley, and we have to plant the summer crops, and there's no moisture at all, and the weather is not looking good for more. No, it's very challenging year, this one.
Yeah, no, I understood. Okay, well, thank you, George. We'll come back to some of that as we go. Kule Francis, what are the priorities for you right now? You're on mute, I'm afraid.
The priorities for me right now is that I want to continue working on the soil health, because I know that's one way that will continue supporting the coffee to become more resilient. The situations that is coming erratic now. And also, we are also working as a cooperative union. We brought on board an issue to do with training the young people on the segments of the coffee value chain. So we brought in a level of students who can come in as interns. And we are saying 3 months to 6 months, you can stay at the cooperative and do different pieces of work alongside the coffee value chain. This is going to be our biggest priority. And right now, as a cooperative, we are already having 5 interns. And we think the number has to increase. And you know, the challenge is that the youth, as said by George, they don't want to go and work on the farm. But we think if they can work on different segments on the value chain of coffee, then that can bring them understanding on how they can promote the coffee. We have introduced a system of training young people how to transport coffee from different sections, from the primary society, from the washing station to the cooperative union. Because our terrain is different, we rely on women carrying coffee at the back. So we're saying now, why don't we train the young people to carry coffee on motorbikes? So this is going on, and we have them registered. The farmer can call and say, I have so many kgs. They're going to the store, a youth will come and pick, and has a registration number. So the other area we are trying to look at now is the possibility of increasing on the coffee tree sheds on the farm. We think this is going to help on the issues of farm resilience.
Okay, thank you. Some really interesting priorities there for sure. And again, bringing parallels to some of the challenges that George was facing in Argentina with you there in Uganda. Ashurafi, let's turn to you then. What are your priorities looking forwards?
Okay, the priority contraction farming to get assured marketing crop we produce. The second priority, corrective selling through aggregation with help of Iringa Farmers Cooperative Union. The third, bag purchase of input through Iringa Farmers Cooperative Union will help farmers to access input to low prices, compare the result prices, conduction, soil testing of our field to determine the amount of soil or the amount of nutrition needed. Lime application in case high level of soil acidity is found in the field. Thank you.
Great, no, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me turn to, we have some great questions coming in from our audience. Let's turn to some of them. In particular, let's talk first around the issue of young people, something that's come up a lot already, and several people mentioned it on the question. So, George, do you have any further reasons or any further thoughts as to why young people are not attracted to farming? Is it down to the lifestyle? Is it down to income? Is it down to just not wishing to have that sort of outdoor type lifestyle? What do you think are the reasons that it's unattractive?
Yes, I think there are several things. First, here in Argentina, we have a problem of infrastructure because we have dirt roads. You don't have connectivity. Some places you can even talk by a cell phone. So that makes people don't want to go there. And also when they have kids, they maybe can take them to school. They are isolated. I think that it's a big reason. Also because I think there are another chances. The world is changing, and well, technology is showing them a big opportunity, and so that's why I think we have to adopt the latest technology and add value with technology to get them involved in farming. And I think that having a purpose on being part of the solution to the carbon sequestration and climate change, that is a chance we have to keep the children farming, because we have a role to play there, and I think that is a good motivation for them.
That's a very good point.
Yes, sorry. If we attract talent to the farms, because most of the people here live around Buenos Aires, we are also doing like a startup. We went to Israel to see how the startup community works, and we are trying to attract talent to our cities. And there's a better way of living. I think it's cheaper, and they can work remote nowadays. So we are trying to attract talent and be attractive. We have to build attractive companies for the kids. We have to solve that. We are on that way.
Thank you. I thought a really interesting point around engaging young people around trying to solve the climate change issues. I mean, you've all mentioned how changing climate and drought is impacting your farms, but certainly younger people worldwide are really engaged around the climate change issue. So if that's a way to attract them back into agriculture, that's a good thing for sure. Kule Francis, perhaps you can talk a little bit more about why you think in Uganda that farming's become unattractive. Is it the same sort of reasons? Is it the income, unattractive lifestyle? Is it, or is there anything else that has made farming unattractive to younger people?
Well, in my opinion, for the young people in Uganda, also considering that Uganda now has the biggest percentage of the population, the youth, and we are currently relying on agriculture. Well, to me, in my opinion, there are about three issues to look at. One is that, of course, Uganda is relying on agriculture for its income, and from behind, around 80% of the farmers or people in Uganda, they get their livelihood from agriculture. So the young people are trying not to work into agriculture for only two, 3 reasons, according to me. One, they think agriculture is a hectic job to do. And these are the people who want to see money in their pocket in the short possible time. During the time of education, formal education in Uganda, agriculture in Uganda was taken as one way to do punishments. So the attitude to agriculture was actually spoiled from the educational point of view. So we need to find a way to turn that. And I agree with George that technology has to improve, because in Uganda, we are still, farmers, most of them are still using a hand hoe. So how much do you do with a hand hoe? So we need to look at technology. We need to look at small machinery where young people can play around on the farm and then work is done. In addition to that, we also need to give examples of what other young people in the other areas have been able to succeed with. What have they done? How have they, where are the model roles? The role models would be a very key point. So those are the issues around the young people in Uganda, but we are trying to change this.
And have you had it? Do you have any evidence of what specifically can work? Any evidence of what it is that does engage younger people?
Well, yes, there are some areas where this can work. If I go slowly and look at our cooperative union, when we started bringing young people on board as interns, then we could ask them, where do you think you can play your own, you can bring your skill into the union? Someone will say, yes, I want to work on the machine that is handling the coffee. Said, fine, do you have the professional skill? Said, no, I don't have. So what do we do for you? So it becomes a challenge. So, okay, those who can work in the area of bagging and sorting and look at quality, they will be available. Who wants to work in the coffee lab? Yes, that one I can be able to do. So those are the kind of areas where we think the young people want to put their energies. And we are trying to do that. And we see them getting interested. Right now in Uganda, riding motorcycle for transport is a business. So when we begin registering young people in the crop season who are interested to transport coffee at different levels, they are available and they are happy to do it. And they earn money by the end of the day. So that we see this as a success.
Okay, thank you very much. So I guess demonstrating that there's more to farming than perhaps they might think, and that there are options and different types of jobs that need done within agriculture as a whole, and that then engages them a little bit more in the potential of agriculture for a future. Okay, well, thank you. Ashirafu, is that something that you see in Tanzania as well? Then the young people not very currently engaged with agriculture, and if that's the case, how do you engage them?
Yes, okay. Young people need results. First, agriculture, pay slowly. Training a business mind to apply in agriculture will help track them. Example, heading crop after harvest, because at harvest play alone. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess is a solution then finding ways in which the money that comes to farms is spread out over the year rather than coming at one particular time. Would that be a solution that would help them, do you think?
Sure.
Okay, interesting. So that again is thinking about and that actually leads into thinking about how or what you need from your customers. Perhaps we can come back to that. Thanks very much to everyone to your questions. They're coming in thick and fast. As some of you have spotted, you're able to like the question. So if there's a particular question that you want to ensure that our panel answer or are asked, please do like the questions. I see someone's just done that just now. So let's think a bit about on our next question, looking at diversification and how much that is something that you're doing to enhance livelihoods and to perhaps engage others in your farm and in the farming sector and your cooperatives. George, perhaps you can give us a little bit of background as to what your farm, because when we spoke earlier, you told me you have a lot of crop diversification already, but is that something you've been doing more of?
Yes, we are lucky. We have a nice weather and long season, so we can grow crops all year round. And we are trying to imitate nature and have soils working, because that's good for soil health. So we need roots and soil activity, worms and bacteria and lipids and all of them working all year round. That's what we try. We we also diversificate in areas, and we do a lot of crops in our main farm, but we also move to other areas because, well, weather is not the same everywhere, so we can do some other crops. We grow some sunflower close to the La Pampa province that it's drier and more sandy soils, and so we diversificate. And we also have some cattle in the farm, and we have a pensionate for polo horses. And we have around 200 horses in the main farm. And so we are very diversified. Sometimes I complain about that because my head is widespread and I think I should focus, but that allows us to have income all year round. And well, we are very diversified, and that makes us very resilient because it's strange that everything goes wrong. We have a lot of chances, no? And we think we need to put more crops. We are depending on some crops and we need to find more. And we are trying to find more crops suitable for like cover crops or to make more intensive rotations. We have to intensify rotations, make 2 or 3 crops a year if we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Kule Francis, diversification for you. You mentioned you're a coffee farmer and you're part of this cooperative. Is diversification of crops something that you're talking about at your cooperative?
Yes, diversification is one way that the farmers can be able to increase on their cash income from the farm and also be in position to raise food on their farm. So we discuss a lot about diversification, and we encourage farmers to do more on diversification. As a cooperative coffee union, we also support some farmers in areas where they can diversify. Farmers have gone ahead to also install beehives for honey on their farms. And that would be more, the bees would do more than honey, and raise more income, and also support on the farm, on the fertilization of the coffee flowers. So that's one area. Some farmers are already doing that. And beekeeping is part of the projects that the cooperative union is promoting. Most of our farmers, to ensure that they do have coffee under shade, we promote growing of some of the fruit trees, and also we promote growing of bananas under coffee. So we know that when you have bananas under coffee, you're also addressing the issue of food security. So that's how we are trying to diversify on the farm and diversify with the coffee farmers.
When you're putting in these or encouraging fruit trees, obviously there's some time before the fruit will grow and ripen, the tree will grow and produce enough fruit. Do you work together or do you, I guess there's two things. First of all, do you work together to buy the trees collectively? And then how do you encourage the farmers to put in the trees when it will be perhaps some time before they will see any benefit from the trees?
Well, right, that's very true. So what's happening is that we work together with the government extension workers, and then we agree with the farmers what kind of trees do they think are beneficial on their farms. So when the farmers come up with the appropriate list, we now agree with the government extension workers to look at the dynamics of each kind of tree proposed. Then as a union, we'll now scale out the list, which kind of trees we as a union will be able to promote after discussing with the extension staff and the owners of the farms. That is how it is being done. So when it comes to growing these trees on the coffee farms, we consider different factors. The spacing has to be looked into. and other factors on that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Same question to you, Ashirafu. What do you think, or how do you diversify crops? What are the secrets? And is that something that you're encouraging, not only in your own farm, but also with through the Clinton Development Initiative? Ashirafu, can you hear me? You're on mute.
I missed your question, yes?
No, I put the same question to Ashirafu in Tanzania. I think he was answering his question on mute. You are on mute, so if you could unmute, and I was just asking you about diversification in your context.
We are implementing forest garden. We are mixing crops like
okay. So
like sunflower and yeah.
Sorry, I didn't catch your answer. So you are diversifying. You're mixing in different crops.
Yes, like sunflower and soybeans and maize, trees.
Okay, well, thank you.
Other things.
Great. So that's something that's happening, and you recognise the benefits of that. All right, let's go back to our questions. Thank you again for all your questions. Most popular question at the moment is, George, I'll come back to you in a sec, George. Do you want to jump in there?
Yes, just one more thing that I remember while they were talking. We also are trying to diversify by making this startup and like investing in some, for example, if you think meat will be replaced and you produce cows, you should buy protein-based meat shares of some company. We are trying to diversify on that side also. We don't have the expertise yet, but we are learning about that and trying to use it as a diversification also.
Okay, well, thank you. That's very useful. Thank you indeed. Back to our question then, and one that's attracting most interest is a question around thinking about outcomes-based payments for farmers, especially around soil carbon gain, soil sequestration, reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And our questioner, Stefan, asks, is there a pathway worth pursuing to finance regenerative agriculture in that direction? I want to be interested to hear how much that is something that our panelists recognise. George, back to you. Do you think that outcomes-based payments are something that you are looking at? Is it something you think will make a difference for you?
Yes, we are in Bayer has a carbon project, and we are involved in that, trying to measure. I think it's very unfair because it's incremental, and we've been doing no-till and good practices for the last 30 years. So it's very difficult for us to increase. When soils are better, you need a lot more effort to increase them very little, no? So I think that's unfair. It's very unfair. That's my point of view. I think that yes, we will provide ecosystemic services, and I believe people have to pay for that. And as most of these decisions are long-term decisions, and the farmers are the weakest part of the chain, and I believe companies should accomplish and help farmers because they can't afford long-term like forestation, for example. I think companies should make the decision to give them long-term loans, not only price signals, because that's not enough, because the times are different. Long-term decisions, and farmers maybe can't afford a year decision. So I think we need help from the companies in that area. Also in papers, because we certify our sprayer, and you need to fill a lot of forms, and well, Bayer helped us, and we have to pay someone to do but some farmers are alone and the farm, and they would never do that. It's including that kind of things. We need help also for filling papers. That it looks stupid, but a farmer alone in a farm will never do it, no?
No, thank you. That's absolutely, no, that's very, very clear. Kule Francis, same question to you then. what extent are you looking at outcomes-based payments? Our question is thinking in terms of developing ecosystem services and financing the regenerative or transition towards more regenerative practices. Is that something that you're looking at in Uganda? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, for our case in Uganda, and specifically in our primary or cooperative union, well, it's something that we are still discussing amongst ourselves if this could work. But in the long term, farmers here are living on 0.5 to 2 acres. So issues to do with deforestation may not work for this kind of farmers at this level. So we are still discussing this, but the first mind is that companies that would be interested in investing in the issues of ecosystems, they could invest more into long-term, maybe long-term investment, perhaps reduce the cost of certification, because the farmer cost of certification is very high for third parties, or maybe increase on have availability of credit financing that would sustain the cooperative a little more. So farmers given the knowledge and the skill, they can be able to plant trees that they want on their farms. But investing more into issues of ecosystem, to me, is not a long-lasting investment.
Why do you say it's not a long-lasting investment? If we're thinking about regenerative agriculture, that is surely more of a long-term investment. Is it that you're not getting? You need long-term investment from buyers? Is that what would help?
Yeah, you see, regenerative agriculture would be very fine, but look at a farmer who has 1 acre. What number of trees that this farmer going to plant? So farmer given the knowledge, given the training, sufficient training, farmer should be able to plant trees and manage them. Okay, the number of trees that he wants on this farm, they can be able to support on his farm. Now, the money that would come in to support this kind of investment would be maybe channeled into credit financing. And then the farmer will know, yes, I can reach here, I can have the finances, I can invest in it for more, I can invest in other issues on the farm. That is my understanding.
Sure. Okay, well, thank you. That's very, very, very helpful and very clear. Ashurafu, let me turn to you. What about outcomes-based payments in your context? Is that something that you're looking at in your cooperative, and is the Clinton Development Initiative looking at that in Tanzania?
I think company should be designing, provide the intervention which involve climate smart agriculture practice and the technology. Example, supporting, providing drought tolerant crop, agroforestry, or planting of trees. Projects are the way to build climate resilience community. Providing attractive loans, example, Clinton providing seedling of avocado against soybeans seeds, help farmers economy, environmental sustainable. Facilitate contract farming to get a sure make of crop marketing of crop marketing we provide. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's talk a bit about certification, another popular question on the Q&A, and thanks to everybody who is bringing questions and then also engaging with them. Kule Francis, I'll turn to you first on this one. Our question is asking about the benefits of certification schemes and how they open markets. You obviously you are part of an certified organic cooperative, and you also say you're certified fair trade. So why did you go down that route, and what benefits have you seen?
Right, thank you. Well, the smallholder farmers benefit more from the certification processes on different angles. One is the key factor here is the health of the farmer. Well, the farmer will produce a product, and definitely the activities on the farm will remain keeping the farm healthy because of following the standards that are provided and the farmer is following. And that also brings the farmer to the end result of the premium. And in this case, we're looking at a premium as the second payment to the farmer. So the farm price or the farm gate price is already paid upfront to the product. And then at a later stage, the farmer will receive the premium value of the delivery that was made. Now, the premium value, of course, comes in on top of the price. So the farmer has that figure that comes into the pocket, in addition to the farm health that has actually been able to handle. So in this case, the farmer is gaining a little more in terms of cash.
And I was interested seeing that your point around the fact that it can help keep the farm healthy. So it provides that that knowledge and skills element that you mentioned earlier. It builds that in, I guess. And
Right.
But you also mentioned, of course, that the problem is the cost of certification. Is that something then that you look to perhaps to buyer groups to help farmers in terms of getting themselves certified, that initial cost?
Yes, that initial cost, the union is still struggling to meet the initial cost of certification, but it becomes a huge investment.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Kule Francis. George, let me turn to you then. What are quite a different setup you have in Argentina, as you've said. What do you think in terms of certification? Have you looked at certification? And if you have, how's that opened markets for you?
Yes. Well, I believe the reward is very little for certification. We do almost all the things that certification is needed, but we don't certificate because I don't find attractive the reward for doing that. So we did with the sprayer, and because here there's a problem with spraying. We are close to a town, and we don't have to have problem with no one. But during the process, we learned a lot of things, and it was worth it. You know, they say that you find positive externalities of the. So we spray better. The guy who drives is more capacitated. He does his job best. We feel we are doing the right thing. So we find a lot of good things, but no one pays us a lot more for spraying. There are very few people who are willing to pay the difference, and I think we do a better spray, much better than anyone in the area.
Is that then, do you think people again just aren't paying the fair price for what you're producing, even with the certification? The premium isn't sufficient for it to be worth you doing the extra work? Well,
that's my feeling, because I think they want us to do things better, but no one's willing to pay for that. So well, I feel it's a little bit unfair, and incentives should be better. I think farmers are willing to keep their soils, that is where they live, what the biggest asset they have, but sometimes they can't. They can't because they can't afford it. They don't have the technology. They don't have the knowledge. So I think companies should help, but more look in the whole, not only with some also prices. As I said, there are a lot of things that can be done and kind of co-work with farmers and help them, because they have more structure, more skilled people, they have more resources, and I think they need to get involved in some way with the farmers to help them go that way, no? That's my feeling.
Okay, well, thanks, George. Ashraf, let me turn to you. Is certification something that you've looked at? You're on mute.
Okay, I think organizing farmers in groups, working with the government, again, agents help farmers to get service at low cost and great numbers. Example, Tosk. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you very much indeed. Right, let's talk a bit about, again, something we have covered, and George certainly mentioned a number of times, is soil degradation. And what do you do to focus on soil health? There are, Samson, our questioner, asks about biochar. So, what again, George? I mean, you mentioned soil health right at the top of the session. So, what are you doing specifically to avoid or to addressing soil degradation? No-till, perhaps, but apart from no-till, have you tried biochar?
Yes, for example, we are in no-till. We've been the last 30 years no-till. We have crop intensification. We use cover crops to provide shadow for weeds and use less herbicides, and then legumes that leave some nitrogen for the next crop, so we use less nitrogen. Also having crops, well, in autumn here it rains quite a lot, and if you don't have crops, that makes water go out of the soil where the roots can take it, and also it leaches some nitrogen, so we want to put it again in the system. So we put plants so that they recycle the nutrients and more carbon. And we have we spend a lot of money with the trials. We are around 20 farms that we have a research center, and we are working with a scientist, biochemistry, who's measuring a lot of things underground that no one knows a lot about. We've been 15 years supporting that. So I think that shows our commitment. We put money, we don't speak about it.
Sure. And are you seeing changing attitudes amongst your peer farmers, others involved in agriculture in Argentina, seeing the advantage of thinking about soils that perhaps weren't thinking about in the past?
I think the trend is that it's going that way. But here the system, most of the agriculture is done on rented land also, and some are yearly contracts. So that instability also, that it doesn't help thinking long term. We have yearly contracts, but we try to stay in the farms we've been in some farms for the last 10, 15 years. And because that allows you to make the proper rotation when sometimes you have to do corn and it's not as profitable as soybean, but you need it for the rotation. No? That's a big issue here. Short term. Here in Argentina, everything is short term because everything changed so fast, and no one wants to have a contract of 5 years because everything can turn around, and well, that doesn't help. But I think we are going that way. Yes, sure. People are willing to do that, but they can't. Most of them, they can't because we have a lot of things in the middle that don't allow them.
Sure. So its incentives are wrong, I guess. Kule Francis, how much do you recognize that point around the incentives not being right? If incentives need to be right for the addressing soil degradation, to think about things on the longer term. Oh, you're on mute.
For the Ugandan smallholder farmers, the advantage is that farmers are working on their own farm. So they are not renting the farm as it is for Argentina, as George has said. So it becomes more clear that the farmer who is working on his own farm to actually improve on soil health. because for a long time, this farmer has not been spraying. So you are only giving extra knowledge to keep the soil more healthier. So the other advantage is that the farmers work with have not sprayed at all. So the only thing is, what else can they do to keep the farm more healthier? So some of the practices that George has explained are the same that we are also using: cover cropping, planting leguminous crops on the farm under coffee, and also we do compost making right on the farm, and it works very well for these farmers. The only big challenge that we are facing now, farmers who are staying uphill on the slopes, erosion is on the increase.
Sure, thank you. And I guess for them, it's ever more important to think about how to retain the soil.
Yeah.
Indeed, good forward. Okay, let me put that also then to Ashrafu in Tanzania. How are you approaching the issue of soil degradation, and what are you doing? Perhaps there's anything else you're doing beyond what we've heard from George and from Kule Francis.
Okay, yeah, contraction of soil testing of our field determining amount of nutrient needs, crop rotation, growing revenue crop like soybeans for nitrogen fixation, reducing fertilizer use. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much indeed. Conscious we're coming towards the end of our time, and thank you very much to everyone for asking your questions. But I've got a final point I'd like to put to all of our farmers, and it's this really: what is it you want from everybody else involved in the food production system? What do you want from people buying your crops and from brands going forward? What are the things that will help you most? George, what do you want from the food system to help you?
Well, I think I've already talked about the things I would like, and also, for example, corn for us is essential in the rotation. I would love people to find more uses for corn, for example. If anyone finds more uses for corn, it would make it profitable, and we can put it without having to, without losing profits. So it would make it easier for us to put more corn on the system, and nothing. I think that involving more, if you really are committed with being solution of the climate change, I think we should work together. They should come closer to the farmers and help them all the way. It's not easy for the farmers. They are the weakest. Well, we are the weakest. We have some scale and we can do it better, but farmers are the weakest part of the chain. They need help.
Sure. Thank you. No, absolutely. Loud and clear. Kule Francis, you were nodding along there. Is that would you agree with that?
Well, to me, what I think that is most important here is that the business community, the investors, these are the food companies, need also to recognize that smallholder farmers have a value to play on the food chain. Well, what I want to say is the smallholder farmers need recognition that they are playing a big part on the food chain globally. The large, I would call them the large farmers or the large producers. Well, they can play a big role. They can produce quite a lot at one time, but now the consumers are there, definitely. So these smallholder farmers, when they aggregate their produce and it goes to the market, then they have some volume. But now these are the people who are also being challenged by climate. They are being challenged by issues to do with technology. So we need this kind of support. So if the farmers are recognized that they have a role to play, but they have challenges, let them be supported to overcome these key challenges. That's one area. The other area, I think, is we've been talking globally about issues of private-public partnership. But we also need to begin talking about other farmers participating in designing and decision-making. So to me, globally, we need to say, can we begin looking at private-public partnership and participation? So that these smallholder farmers can be brought on board. Then when they have needs, then those who are able, like the big companies, can support and overcome these needs. That's my contribution.
Great, and thank you very much indeed. Ashrafu, the same thing to you. What would you add? What is it you want to hear, or what do you want from the rest of the food value chain, from buyers and from brands?
Okay, facilitating contract farming to get a sure market of crop we produce. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's great. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, so I will have to draw the discussions to a close. Thank you very much to our panel for their time and insights today. We'll be in touch with everybody to share the audio and video recordings of the webinar, so you can watch again or share with your colleagues. Do head to the Innovation Forum website for more webinars, podcasts, and insights, along with details of the upcoming Sustainable Landscapes and Commodities Conference in Amsterdam on the 1st and 2nd of November. There are still passes available if you'd like to attend. For now, though, I hope you found the webinar useful. I've been Ian Welsh. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing the voices of the farmers being heard.
Pleasure.
Thank you.